This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I'm going to Shabbos Rabbi say the Haftorah of Parshas by the Navi Yirmiyahu, chapter 46. Chapter 46, Pasuk Yud Gimel. Pasuk says like this: Hadavar asher dibar Hashem el Yirmiyahu Hanavi. The matter that God spoke to Jeremiah. Lavoi Nebuchadrezzar melech Bavel, when Nebuchadrezzar, king of Bavel, came, lahakois esaretz Mitzrayim. Now Rashi points out this is the second time that Nebuchadnezzar came to destroy Mitzrayim. This is his second attempt. So what does the Ribbon Shalom tell Yirmiyahu? Hashem tells Yirmiyahu as follows. Hashem says, Hagidu v'Mitzrayim. Say over in Mitzrayim. Relate in Mitzrayim. That what? That Nebuchadnezzar is coming. Go tell in Mitzrayim that Nebuchadnezzar is on his way. V'hashmiu v'migdal. And let them know in Migdal. V'hashmiu v'noif v'sach panches. These go tell all these areas. His yatsev, stand, v'hachein lach, be prepared. Ki achla charev svivecha, the sword will consume around you. Madua nischaf avirecha. Why are your mighty ones, why are they being broken? Why are they being dragged away and washed away, not able to stand up? I told you they're coming. Madua nischaf avirecha lo yamad. Why are they not standing? You know why? Ki Hashem hadafai, because Hashem's pushing them away. Okay, that's the beginning of the Haftorah, the first three psukim. So the Sefer Kochav Miyakov, Kochav Miyakov is the Sefer of the Dubna Maggid on Haftorahs. Thank my friend Gedalia Schwartz for getting it for me yesterday. And he quotes the pshat that he heard from Rav Naftali, the Maskil La'isan. And he says like this: God's attribute is different than the attribute of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How's that? If a person wants to harm their friend, if you want to harm your friend, let's say you want to get at your friend, so you do it secretly, you do it clandestinely, so that your friend doesn't know you're doing it and he can't protect himself. Then you could carry out what you wanted. Now if you call up your friend, hey friend, tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. I'm going to be at your front door with a bat to harm you, that I would not advise harming your friend and letting him know where and when you plan on doing it, because the chances are that when either the police will be waiting for you or your friend won't be there. Then he's going to look for ways. Not so God. God doesn't have a problem letting the person know, by the way, tomorrow, I'm coming to get you. So, Hashem doesn't have a problem giving warning. Actually, the practice of God is, the Navi Amai says in Parak Gimel Pasuk Zayin, Lo yasa Hashem alekim davar ki im gila soidai al avadav hanavim. God never does anything unless He reveals it first to His servants, the prophets. V'chol pe'ulaisav terem titzmachna yashmiya esen. And all the actions of God, before they come to fruition, He lets it be known. Because there's nothing anyone could do about it. In other words, if God says tomorrow the wild animals are coming, you could call your exterminator. It doesn't matter. God will carry out what He wants to carry out. So He's no problem letting people know. The benefit of this notification, there are two now, so you'll say, fine, God could let people know before, but why does He? What's the benefit of letting people know before? So there are two benefits. Number one, sometimes God will let them know before the evil comes, so that the people should be aware and do tshuva. That's the Pashut benefit, because God doesn't really want to bring the evil, because He's bringing the evil so people should change. So He lets people know so that they could protect themselves and do tshuva. God's not trying to harm. Just like by the Anshe Ninveh, Yaina came and he said, so what happened? He said in 40 days Ninveh will be overturned, and nothing ever happened. Why? Because they got their act together. That was the goal. God didn't want to destroy Ninveh. God wanted to turn Ninveh around, which He was successful at doing. Right, yeah. That's benefit number one. Now that benefit we're going to see was not Nogea Mitzrayim. You can't say God told the Mitzrayim that it's going to happen so that they should do tshuva, because it says Vayichbad Eslei Paroi. Hashem hardened Paro's heart so they couldn't do tshuva. So if He couldn't do tshuva, then why would God tell them before? Okay, but there's another benefit. There's another benefit, and that is if God doesn't let it be known, then it could be God's not doing it. Maybe it just had a coincidence, right? In other words, if you go outside and you see at 12 o'clock 50 motorcyclists all wearing yellow helmets with the flag of North Korea with a monkey on their shoulder, so it doesn't mean it's an S. Could be that they got together and they decided to drive by exactly at 12 o'clock and they put a monkey on their shoulder. But if I tell you and I predict it beforehand, then we got something going here, because how in the world would I know that? I don't call that guy Kim Jong, whatever his name is, on a regular basis. So if you predict something, it shows it's miraculous as opposed to if something just happens. So says the Dubna Maggid, so that it's known it's the hand of God, that it didn't just happen coincidentally. Had God not let it be known, that this and this would be happen, then you could make a mistake and think, it's just a coincidence, and God didn't do it. This is exactly what happened in our Parsha. How does the Parsha start? Asher saladi Mitzrayim v'yes asher samti bam v'datem ki ani Hashem. That's the beginning of the parsha. This, by the way, this week's parsha. Did you know this week's parsha is Parshas Boy? What a coincidence that the Haftorah of this week actually is connected to the parsha. Can you imagine that? Wow. That's what we have in the first Maramakayim, right? Chazayin David. The Haftorah is speaking about the downfall of Mitzrayim. Okay, but is that all? So Dubna Maggid says it's more than that. The same way in the Parsha, the downfall of Mitzrayim is not only happens, but is predicted. So Hashem tells Moshe, Boy el Parai. So you'll ask, why should I go to Parai? But ani hechbadati es liboy, I hardened his heart. So what's the purpose of telling him? He can't do tshuva anyway. The answer is, Vidatem ki ani Hashem. The answer is, the first benefit does not apply. But the second benefit, that he should know that I'm doing it, that does apply. What benefit was to tell Parai before every Makkah? But it was already ungenomen, it was already predicted, that Parai is not going to send us out, and he's not going to be subdued from the Makkah. There's no benefit of warning before. Hashem should have just annihilated them without letting them know before. And also, what does it mean? It says, Laman shisi ulaman tesaber. Aval hu hadavar she'amarnu. Because Hashem wanted to show, by every makkah, that it's etzba elokim. So they should not attribute it to coincidence and to the forces of nature. Therefore, He warned them before every makkah, before it came, that this is what will be, so that that it's Hashem. In other words, if it just would have happened, you would have thought, like the Abarbanel says, the water became polluted. So the frogs had to leave the Nile. So they were climbing over everyone. So they got itchy, and then the lice came. And then the animals went crazy, and there were wild animals running everywhere, and so the cattle dropped dead. I mean, it's all natural. Yes. What?
There's a author named Velikovsky, and he tried to show,
yeah, it happens all the time. The octopuses run wild, and they use their suction cups to suck out the locks and not enter the door. I mean, it's a very natural phenomenon. It happens all the time. So, right? So, what exactly?
But still a power tool, because he's the land of magic, witchcraft. So he's a bigger witchcraft. People thought it's not a good.
But Laman Tesaper, Ba'azne Bincha, Uven Bincha, Vidatem, you should know that I'm God. So this way, right? V'zeu she'amar Hashem Moshe, Boyel Parai. You'll ask, Mazu Oisa, Le'eza Teila Sihasra. If I want to bring out these makos, no, the answer is Ki yesh v'yesh tam kamos. I have a secret reason. L'man yigala v'yisra ki ani Hashem. I'm doing this. It's not a coincidence. And the proof is the hasra. This is what it means. Boyel Parai. Meaning, go to Parai. Even though I hardened his heart, but it's in order, Laman Shisi, Vimkain, you'll say the halicha is for no benefit. It would be enough just to bring the makos. The answer is reason number 2. Reason number 2 is Laman Tesabra Ozne Ben Mincha, Ratzon Yio Inyam Supra Meish Laish Ki Ani who. I'm the one who did it. Vidatem ki ani Hashem. So there are really 2 reasons to let people know before. One, so they should do tshuva. But even in this situation, where Paro's heart was hardened, there's still the reason of Vidatem ki ani Hashem. Now, what does this have to do with the Haftorah? So Hashem is telling Yirmiyahu, go tell Mitzrayim that Nebuchadnezzar is going to destroy them. Ukechol hadvarim ha'eleh was the nevuah of Yirmiyahu on the downfall of Mitzrayim through Nebuchadnezzar. This is what it means. Hagidu b'Mitzrayim. Let the Mitzrayim know. V'hashmiu b'migdal. Imru his yatse v'hachin lecha ratzaloymar. The war against Nebuchadnezzar is not hidden until it comes. No! Because if it would be hidden until it comes, then the Mitzrayim would say it's just a coincidence. Nebuchadnezzar came. And they beat us because we weren't prepared. But if we would have known and we would have prepared ourselves for battle, we would have won. 6th line, Al Kain Yomer Hanavi. Therefore the Navi says, Lahidia, let them know, Lavaser LeMitzrayim, and tell the Mitzrayim the report. Ki Yis Yatzvu V'Yachinu Atzam. Tell the Mitzrayim, on this and this date, Nebuchadnezzar is going to come, he's going to wipe you out, be prepared, get all your missiles ready. But what's going to be if you don't win? Then you're going to realize that it's not a coincidence, but rather, like the Navi says, Madua nischaf abirecha. Why'd you lose this battle? Ki Hashem hadafai. You'll realize that it was Hashem. And you know how you'll realize that it was Hashem? Because I told Yirmiyahu to tell Mitzrayim that this is happening. Hagidu b'Mitzrayim. You tell them, and the reason why you should tell them is so that Mitzrayim should realize it was not a mikra, and they'll realize Ki ani Hashem. Then they'll realize this was not my sateva. It's only because Hashem, so to speak, forsook them. V'zehu, one second. Higidu b'Mitzrayim, v'hishmiu b'migdal, laman yedu es asher asad lavay aleim. Tell them, this way they have no excuse. And therefore the Navi asks, v'zehu shesha'al hanavi, therefore the Navi asks, Madua nischaf avibrecha. Why were you mighty ones washed away? Don't say it's because you weren't prepared, you were prepared. Don't say because you didn't know, you knew. The answer is Ki Hashem hadafai. The same way in the Parsha, I'm telling the Mitzrayim vidatem ki ani Hashem, and I'm telling Mitzrayim that they'll realize Madua nischaf avirecha ki Hashem hadafai. V'sheker hasus l'shua. Yeah.
I think it'll be enough to remind Mitzrayim with the history of Am Yisrael. You know what he went through. You just remind him with that. There should be enough of them. He went through it once.
You know, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Yeah, the Mitzrayim.
For 500 years they were destroyed. They were not a power.
Why would they believe Yirmiyahu anyway? Bnei Yisrael didn't believe him either. Why would they believe?
It's interesting because we spoke at Rashi. Rashi said this is already the second time Mitzrayim is going to be destroyed, in the times just of Yirmiyahu. Now the psukim continue. Hirba koishel. Now what does it mean, Hirba koishel? This is Yirmiyah Memvav Pasuk Tes Zayin. Hirba koishel. Hashem caused a lot of people to stumble. Gam nafal ish el reyehu. One man fell to his friend. Rashi said, the Metzuda says, Gam nafal ish ratzoloymar. The Akum who came to help Mitzrayim, and they befriended them, and they said, get out of here and return to us. Gam nafal ish el reyehu vayimru kuma v'shem come to us v'leretz malatenim necherv hayoyna. Basically, other nations came and said, flee to our nation because of the sword of the Yoina. Why is the sword of Nebuchadnezzar called the sword of the Yoina? Rashi says, Cherev Hayoina is a lashon of Yayin, the sword of wine, or the sword of affliction. The Metzudas David said, Cherev Hayoina is the sword of Nebuchadnezzar, basically, it's an oppressing sword. Karusham, they called out there. The Metzudas David says in the front lines of the battle that the Kazdim cried out that Parai, king of Mitzrayim, raised his voice in Gaiva and in Goida Levav. Meaning, Karusham, Paroi Melech Mitzrayim, Sha'oin, He'evir Hamoyed. Paroi arrogantly cried out that they're going to wage war, and the time passed, and he didn't. Meaning, Paroi came to his defeat, and then the Navi says, Chai Ani Nu'um HaMelech, I swear by my life, says the king, Hashem Tzavakois Shemai. What does this mean? Ki kisavar beharim ucha karmel bayam yavai. So the Navi saying, just like Har Tavar, which is established in the mountains, will never move, and Har Carmel cannot move, the Nebuchadnezzar will come against Mitzrayim. This cannot be changed. This is set in stone. This is the verdict of what will happen. In other words, the Navi is promising by his life that in fact Nebuchadnezzar will come and destroy Mitzrayim. So the Dubna Maggid continues in this vein, Hirba Koshal. Says the Dubna Maggid, Karoi Shem Paroi Melech Mitzrayim. They're calling the name of Paroi, king of Egypt, Sha'oin He'ever Hamoyed, Ratzaloymer. Ki ha-Mitzrim levavam loy kein yidmeh. The Mitzrayim didn't think this would happen. They didn't think that this was divinely orchestrated. But only after they stumbled and fell and flee to their land, because of the Cherev Hayoina, then they cried out in the sound of Sha'oin, in the sound of commotion to Paroi Melech Mitzrayim, because he was guilty. Why? Ki hever hamoyed. He let the time pass. He did not v'lo hisnaig al pi chachmas tachsisei mechama. He did not act in accordance with the tactics of war, lishmar hamoyed hanachas chol davar, which is asher zeu ha'ikar hayoyser gadol b'chachmas hakrav. This is the most important thing in warfare. V'yislu ma'apalasim ma'avaras hamoyed shal pari uv'seder olam v'lo b'gzeres Hashem. Meaning they basically blame their defeat on bad timing, on bad preparation, on bad tactic, and therefore the Navi says, no, you fools, Chayoni Noam HaMelech Hashem Tzavakoy Shemai. Ratzalaimer HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, Asher Hashem Tzavako Shemai, He's the one who waged the war. He's the one who is victorious. He's the one who defeated you. He swears that your excuse that you fell because Paro came at the wrong time or he delayed, no, it has nothing to do with Paro's delay. It's not because of Paro's bad tactics. It's not because of Paro's warfare. He lost to Hashem Tzavakos Shemai. And then the Koich of Miyakov just concludes, and we'll end with this, and I'll tell you something on the Parsha. The Koich of Miyakov ends, what does the pasuk mean? Madua nischaf avirecha lo amad ki Hashem hadafai. He says it over a very nice pshat. If you see something move from point A to point B, and you see it move at a certain speed or at a certain rate, it all depends what is being pushed and who is the pusher. If a little kid pushes something, it won't move a lot. If a stronger person pushes it, it will move much further. You go to the carnival, and the mighty man, so they give you the hammer and you have to bang down, and you go, how far up is the thing going to shoot? So little kid, he pushes it, goes up a little. The mighty man comes, he pushes it, and the thing shoots up. So Lahavdil, says the Dubna Maggid, the Navi asks, Madua nischaf abirecha? Your mighty warriors, Mitzrayim, why were they cast away? Why were they swept away in a river, in a mighty torrent? And they're still going. They're still flying. Why? Who's the doicha? Who pushed them? The answer is Ki Hashem hadafai. The reason why clearly your mighty warriors were able to be pushed away is because the Rebbeinu Shalom pushed them, meaning determine and detect by the speed, the velocity of the sweep of your mighty warriors. Realize Madua nischaf abirecha. It's because Ki Hashem hadafai. Okay, this is we'll end with this on the Haftorah. Okay, so
you've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.